This week on NWP, it's not my bag, baby, yeah.
What this is about, no. There's a pain that lies deep inside. And as time goes on, it gets harder to hide. And I feel it in my heart, and I know you do too. Well, there's just no other way. So I'm asking you to take off your pants. Well, I know there's just no better way to say what I gotta say. So take off your pants. I wanna see.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Nerds Without Pants, episode 138. We cover everything while bearing it all. I am Julian, and I'm joined, as always, and finally, by Patrick.
Back again.
Yes, we've been trying to record this for so long. So very, very long. But it's finally happening. We finally get to empty our sacks for everybody to enjoy. And we're joined by special guest Joey.
Hello. I have no Yakuza anything to talk about this time.
Holy shit, really? I just assumed that you were going to talk about a little bit during Consumption Junction. I am legitimately shocked. You may have heard Joey on our Yakuza special, unless you just really don't give a flying flip about Yakuza, in which case you should probably still listen to that episode because we make really good points for why you should care. But otherwise, he was supposed to be on this episode initially, and so we brought him back for this one. Couple little housekeeping things before we get moving. The second episode of the Arcade Memories podcast finally released. That's the episode that has me and Angelo on there telling a story about the arcade scene. We're about halfway through the episode. You can find them on any of your podcast apps. It's a really good show. Gabe is actually, he's the host. He's actually become a fan of NWP in the interim since we actually submitted to him, hi Gabe. We're going to have him on hopefully pretty soon, but his show is awesome. It's really well produced. Basically people write in or send him recordings of their arcade memories, and then he either reads them or, plays the audio clips. Other podcasters are on there as well, so I found some other podcasts to listen to through his show. So definitely give it a go. And then also, because he doesn't have any more material right now, and it might be the final episode, go send him some stories, either by just typing them out, or if you want to send a recording, if you ever kind of wanted to dip your toe into the podcasting game, cause he needs more content, and it's a really great show, and you can go hit him up on email at arcadememoriespodcast@gmail.com. Highly recommend that. Very cool show. Go give him some love. And then other than that, I think we're good to go, Patrick. So why don't we roll on into Stage Select? And Stage Select is finally brought to us by Patrick. It's a very interesting topic. So why don't you lay it out for us, since it's been a while since we actually announced it to people.
Yeah, so I've been on my journey, and as a developer, I've gained all these tools for my toolkit, and then I was just thinking, if I went on a journey or an adventure for myself, and I have been on an adventure for the past month or so, pretty nonstop as much as I can, what 5 items would I add in my bag? Because you're obviously always going to get over encumbered, at least for the games that really care about your items and how much you can bring with you, and trying to make some semblance of reality. So in order for us to finish in a likely amount of time that would not be too much for most listeners and everything, I thought we should limit it to 5 things that we would put in our bag. So in no particular order, I guess I'll just start out. And
so and I was thinking, so do you just want us to empty out our sacks onto the ground and just we can talk about what's in there? I have so many sack jokes tonight, guys. I'm not even going to apologize.
I guess we could do it that way, because it's hard to keep track of what's in your sack when you got it so full. And I think like no one is not representative of the other. Like you kind of have to have all of them in your bag together in order to see if you really are ready for an adventure. So
Right.
yeah. I don't know, before we started, any like problems that you went into or you couldn't figure out for a while? Because like for me, like I kept switching what I wanted in my bag with only 5 items. It's like, it's really nothing and it fills up really fast. So you got to take these items that like are kind of multiple items and you got to exploit it in certain ways. I thought like, you know, like with a genie asking for multiple wishes or something like that, you sort of need an item that's a multiple item.
It was a toughie for me, partially because I was like, do weapons count as items? Because technically, like when you're playing most games, like your weapons go into your item bag, but I feel like weapons are a different thing, so I didn't want to like load up a bunch of like awesome weapons into my bag. Like I was thinking more about survivability and situational things. You know, when you only have 5 slots, like I kept like switching out. You know, it's like I'd reach into that bag. Like, this isn't gonna do. I'm just like fling it out and then put something else in there. And it's like, no, that's a fool's errand. That's useless. I just take that out too. And just kept going back and forth for longer than I thought. Definitely. How about you, Joey?
Well, at first I just kind of put up a joke version of the list, on PictureBit, but then when I learned I was going to be on the podcast, I made an actual one. Basically what I did was just the first things that came to my head of like, what would I be most likely to have in an actual video game? It just kind of went from there because I don't think things through. So I did not think about this quite as hard.
Joey's post on the actual show thread for episode 137 is a Hungry Boys item pack. It's just video game food.
I'll explain it whenever we get to my sack.
Excellent. Well, Patrick, how do you want to proceed? This is your ball game.
Well, I guess I'm pretty excited because I made like my own concrete poem for this, an actual bag. I guess it's really short, so I just kind of want to get it off my chest. But it's called My Bag, so I want to tell you what I got in it. I started it with, you know, what?
Wait, so am I to take it that this is a Patrick's Poetry Corner?
Yeah, it's an abbreviated one. It's definitely qualifying though.
Okay, I just needed to have it be official so I could throw the music in there.
Oh yeah. What song is it?
I think I just have like some Baroque music that I just like thread underneath.
Oh, well,
this is last time.
Yeah, this is perfect for that. Yeah, this is really minimalist, and I start it with like an open parentheses, and then everything inside the bag is its own line. So each item, if you're thinking about it concretely, would be its own verse. So my bag: an ocarina, some rations, tents to camp, the Omni tool, and a portal gun to the end of time, packed for adventure. And that's it. So to recap. Let's start with an ocarina. I needed something that's versatile, and I needed something that I want to play idyllic tunes to while I'm just out starting my adventure is the most important thing and the most obvious time that you're going to have some nice music. So why not take like the most influential musical item that you can easily fit into a bag? Pick the ocarina for that.
Wait, you just want it for the musical purposes? You don't want to use it to like go back in time and shit?
Right. Well, that's another thing. I'm going to use it in conjunction with the portal gun because I'm going to place the portal gun at the end of time, and then after I use the ocarina to go there, I can also use it to go somewhere else and go back and forth between 2 time periods and kind of like add things to my time after I've already gone through it, so I can go back in history and revisit events and like more richly populate them. So I think, the two of them work really well together. And that was the only thing that, in my list, I wasn't sure if like it was a weapon or not, but I was like, it doesn't really qualify as a weapon. It's kind of more, I don't know, it's a tool.
Yeah, it's not portal gun. I was confusing with the gravity gun because I was like, gravity gun isn't a weapon until like that last level. But yeah, portal gun is definitely a tool.
Yeah. I mean, you could use it also as a weapon if you like throw something else in a portal and you get it to like the momentum to hit whatever it comes out of. But
Yeah. Or if you opened up a portal in somebody's stomach or something, which is probably what we were going to get to do in Half-Life 3 if that ever happened, but it's not going to.
And you could open up a portal like on the ground to the abyss or something and trap somebody there. So there's definitely things you could do with it. But so that takes care of two of mine, kind of like how I'll get places quickly and how I'll listen to music. And then rations would be, obviously from Metal Gear Solid. That's really all you need to eat.
Gotcha.
Then tents to camp. That's obviously from the Final Fantasy franchise. And they at save points allow you to restore your health and your mana. So.
What from Final Fantasy? Sorry?
Tents.
Okay.
It's like from the old ones especially, but like Final Fantasy Adventure and stuff, they allow you to gain all your party's health back, basically.
In the field.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
Although I would have gone with the cottage just because it's fancier. But the cottage isn't that's not a staple. I think cottage is only in like 2 of the games.
Yeah.
So tent is more ubiquitous.
I'm playing through Final Fantasy
Right.
3. I could probably use some tents.
Are you really?
Well, I mean, I played a little bit of it, and I plan to play all of those Super Nintendo games at some point. But, yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah, you had mentioned that you picked up the Mini. So,
Anyway.
cool.
But that leaves me at my last one, and it's the most all-encompassing one. It's for everything else that I haven't mentioned. It kind of like is an all-in-one tool, the Omni tool from Mass Effect, and that's something that could be used for a variety of purposes, but it's like used for hacking. You could decrypt things and you can repair things too. So anything I need in the field as like, an engineer, or if I'm going to infiltrate something, or if I need to learn about something, would all be in the Omni tool. And I figured that's kind of a cop out, but you know what? I got 5 tools and I'm wishing for more tools.
Nah, man, Omni tool, like that's not a cop out. That is an inspired answer. I didn't even think of that. And that's a really, it's a really, imagine your smartphone, but it's like grafted to your arm. Well, not grafted, but it's like, just like the interface just appears holographically on your arm when you need it. Like, and it's got that haptic interface, so it still feels like you're manipulating something physical. Like, it's just so cool. Like, I love the tech in the Mass Effect series so much.
And it prevents Reaper invasions.
If you do it right.
Yeah, if your save doesn't get corrupted. But yeah, that does it for mine. So, I don't know who wants to go next. What do you guys got in your bag?
Joey, why don't you lay yours out for us?
All right, so
I'll go last.
All right, cool. So one of them is obviously food. On Pixelbit, I just posted a bunch of pictures of like old drumsticks from like beat 'em up games, and then a picture of a Pokeball, and then a picture of Link grilling something. The implication being that I was going to cook any Pokemon I found on the island.
As it should be.
The other one I have, and this is on a list that I wrote like 10 minutes before the podcast because I lost the one from when we were recording last time. I just put tons of currency. I don't know what the currency is going to be on the island, but if I was in an actual video game, typically I just save up a crap ton of money thinking I'm going to need it and never do. Health potions, because I like to game the system. A vehicle of some kind. I'll just go with an ATV. And then the last thing I had was a teleporter, which was kind of a cop-out in case I need to get off the island. And to make this a little bit more, give this a little bit more character, I'll just say that the teleporter is Japanese alcohol. That way it ties it into Yakuza somehow. Because I'm sure that's a teleportation device in those games.
Joey has the biggest sack of us all, Patrick. That is a massive sack to be able to hold a vehicle and a teleporter in there.
Yeah, well, I have Link's sack, so like I can just fit anything in it.
Yeah.
Including a boat.
Nice.
Well, and that's kind of what why I mentioned when Patrick brought this up is like, when you start to really think, and this is one of those things where I don't need this to be realistic in any video game. Like I don't, if anything, like I hate when you have inventory restrictions. We'll get to it, I'm sure, when Patrick talks about Consumption Junction. But like the whole like being over encumbered and stuff like that. It's like, you just put this in here to slow me down. Like there's no other reason for this, like just let me hold whatever because if I can just like hold like in the Skyrim example, like empty out my sack, but then just fill it with beds, you've already broken reality at that point. You're not going to put a bed in an item bag. You just can't. So, not let alone multiple beds. So at that point, it's clearly a magical bag of holding. Just give me a magical bag of holding.
Right.
I don't know if you guys remember like the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon, but there was like the one character who, that's all he had. He had the bag of holding. So he would just like reach into there and he would pull out, I think he would like, he never knew what he was going to be able to get because it just was kind of like a portal to another dimension that had stuff. And so sometimes it would be useless and sometimes it would be exactly what they needed. But that's how I always envision, you know, these item, storage units and stuff in video games. It's like, it just holds whatever.
Yeah, and in fact, I'm almost suspicious in real life that that's not happening right now. I'm like, yeah, these pockets are about right, but they're really just portals to somewhere else where I put something in. Like at this point, because we're already in a simulation and stuff. Hashtag Elon Musk and the Boring Company. But yeah, and other people who think that is happening. But I'm pretty sure that, yeah, at this point, we're in a simulation. They're just telling us that that's about as much as you would have held in a pocket if it were real back.
Right. Yeah. They don't want to like break the memory or whatever. So that's why you can only hold 255 of anything at any one given time.
Yeah.
I will say, like, I went to a screening of a movie a few years ago. Don't remember what movie it was. It was like a press screening. And I wear slacks, so I have like plenty of pocket room. You know, I don't have these shitty little like micro pockets that are found in jeans that are super tight. But when I got to this was actually one of those where they had like a security guard saying like, you need to like leave, you know, like checking people for phones and stuff like that because they didn't want people recording anything or leaking anything. So he checked my pockets. And so I pulled out my wallet, my keys from one side, and then my phone and my 3DS from the other pocket. And he was like, you're gonna have to take your phone and put it back in your car. Also, how'd you fit that other thing in your pocket? I was like, just fits right in. And so I went to the car, put the phone in the glove compartment, came back. He checked me again. He's like, I still don't understand how you're fitting that big old thing in your pocket. I was like, it's got plenty of room. I could put another one of these in here if I wanted to.
Did you ever wear Jinko jeans?
No, I have worn exactly one pair of jeans in my life, and that was for marching band in 9th grade.
Wow.
I have always been a slacks dude.
Okay. You got mad chafing going on.
I need more room down below. I've got a huge sack, Patrick, and I like it to be nice and comfy. Speaking of my sack, would you like to see what's inside it?
Rip it open.
No, you got to do it slowly. All right. So obviously, like the easy route for me would have been to just like load up a bunch of stuff from the Final Fantasy series, right? Like, because when I think items, I usually think Final Fantasy. I didn't do that. I limited myself to 2. First one being a Mega Elixir, which for anybody who's not a Final Fantasy aficionado, Mega Elixir, restores all of your health and magic points to you and your entire party. So, you know, I figure even if I'm alone, that's still really good. Like it'll take you from 0 or, you know, almost dead to, you know, back to tippy top shape. But if you're with somebody, like it'll get you all right as rain when things go, you know, south really quickly.
It's more or less the alcohol version of tense, right?
Yes, actually. Yeah, exactly. And also like kind of a cheesy item that I think they threw in starting with like, well, I don't know when they added it, but it used to be a very rare item, and then as the series went on, they became easier and easier to obtain. And so then it just like kind of breaks the game. Like once you get high enough to where you just get enough of those, it's like nothing is a challenge anymore because it's like, oh, yeah. I took a little bit of damage, Mega Elixir.
I like never even end up using those because I'm always trying to save them for what may be the biggest battle I'll have to have done so far, and it never ends up happening where I use those because I'm so dependent on like early potions that I never even move to the enhanced or superior version, much less like the full heal one until I realize it's too late.
I'm pretty much the same way. That's why I always have money saved up, because it's just like, I bought a bunch of potions, now I don't need anything else.
I will say that your selection of money is inspired, Joey, because it's like, yeah, like that'll get you the rest of the way. Like, yeah. You know, I don't know why I didn't think of that. Next up, sometimes you need the nuclear option. And my version of the nuclear option is the Bahamut Neo materia from Final Fantasy VII, when you need stuff to go away really quickly, but you also want to do it in the most bombastic way possible. Now, for people who, may not remember 7 as much, this is the second version of Bahamut in the game, not the third one. The second one is where it's at. That's the big red version of Bahamut that elevates the enemy on a patch of land and then does a Kamehameha-esque mega blast of fire that just annihilates everything in its path. And sometimes you just need that. After that is a Scroll of Town portal from Diablo 3, because, and I'm sure we'll talk about this, but one of the things that bugs me more than anything is when your pack gets too full and you need to sell some shit, but you don't want to just schlep your way back to town. So you just pop a Scroll of Town portal, which opens up a portal back to town, hop in there, sell your shit, then you're right back where you started, or, where you left. So, you don't lose any progress. You don't have to backtrack or anything. It's just in and out, boom. Very important. And then from the Legend of Zelda series, I have a bottled fairy, because sometimes shit happens and you die, and a bottled fairy will bring you back from death. And that seems like a really important thing, especially because my gaming skills seem to have been on the wane lately, and just dying more in games than I expect to. And last but certainly not least is from Worms Armageddon, and it's the Holy Hand Grenade. When you still need things to go away, but maybe not as on a massive scale as Bahamut Neo, but you still need to make some fools disappear, you just pull the pin and count to 3. Not 4. 5 is right out. You shall only count to 3. And then lobbeth thy Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch.
And the Lord spake, saying, First shalt thou take out the holy pin. Then shalt thou count to 3. No more, no less. 3 shall be the number thou shalt count, and the number of the counting shall be 3. 4 shalt thou not count, neither count thou 2, excepting that thou then proceed to 3. 5 is right out. Once the number 3, being the third number, be reached, then lobbest thou thy Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch towards thy foe, who, being naughty in my sight, shall snuff it.
That is my sack.
Nah, man.
It's the most destructive out of them.
Yeah, it's funny too, because I didn't, I was like, well, I can't put weapons in here, but sometimes you just need that little bit of insurance that you're going to get out of things okay.
Yeah.
A smart bomb, if you will.
Actually, now that I think about it, my sack is kind of dumb because I have nothing to fight anybody off with. So, all those health potions are going to go away and I'll just be dead.
Well, you just assume that, you're already equipped with what you need to make it through that. That's the way that I was thinking of it, is that I've already got, my sword or whatever equipped on me. I've got my armor. That's not counting in this items bag, even though, if you follow most games, any other weapons you would pick up would go into that bag. But if we're just setting out on, an initial quest and we only have, room for 5 items, that's what I'm going to throw in there. But yeah, giving myself a couple offensive workarounds that are maybe a little cheesy, but
also having a boatload of money can really be deathly to a lot of people that are poor. You can really just gentrify the shit out of them.
Hashtag Elon Musk.
If you need to get away from your pursuers in town, you just throw a bunch of coins behind you, like Yakuza, and then just watch all the poor people scramble for it, and you get away.
Oh yeah. Man, I forgot about that. That's one of my favorite parts.
Yeah.
Or build a subdivision and have somebody who's not allowing other people in or something unless you have the right amount of money, but nobody has as much as you.
Well, that's just time consuming and also mean.
I just want to point out I'm not this evil in real life, and I have no idea what Elon Musk's thoughts on gentrification are. I just wanted to use a hashtag.
It was a well-placed hashtag.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on to listener feedback. We have ancient comments over at Pixelbit from the show thread for episode 137, which was recorded an age ago. First up is Exrian, who has his inventory items in no particular order. He echoes me with the Mega Elixir from Final Fantasy, and he says, I need this in case I get really sick It has to be the one that's heal status effects also. And I think that's all of them. Like, it's just like the panacea of Final Fantasy. It'll just get you right as rain, no matter what's wrong with you. Next up is the Union Plume from Valkyrie Profile, which is a game that I barely remember. He says, cast on yourself and you get a get out of death free card. Oh, okay. So, yeah, sort of like my bottled fairy. Me and X-Treen are on the same page here so far. Next up is the Celestial Brush from Okami. He says, the power of God's in your hand. Want fire, wind, day, night, bombs, and much more? This has got you covered. I haven't played that game, but yeah. I know it's beautiful and everything, but then I hear how long it is and it scares me away.
Oh, I hadn't heard that, so now you scared me away. I'm only like maybe 5 hours in.
I'm scared.
Yeah, I hear it tips like the 30+ hour mark, which I would not expect from
that's
that type of game.
that's like a Zelda. That's not too bad, I would say.
Yeah, I guess I wasn't. Well, yeah, I guess in that context. I haven't really finished very many Zelda games, so I'm usually surprised when they go that long. Cause like Breath of the Wild, I was like, holy shit, I played this thing for like 50 hours or whatever. Maybe it was 45. It was something like that. And I was like, that's a really long time. But again, I've only finished like 4 Zelda games in my life. And most of those were much older ones that were way shorter.
When Breath of the Wild is like so open world, that's way different.
I think they call that empty world. Ooh.
Lastly from Xrian, he agrees with you, Patrick. He has the Omni tool from Mass Effect 3. He says, the power of the tech gods on your arm. Want to hack, repair, scan, heal, cut, and much more? This has got you covered. I'm sorry. No, that was only 4. He's got one more. I can't count. The Ocarina of Time from Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask.
Yes!
Rewind and fast forward time. Travel quickly, summon rain, and look cool. Maybe lame while doing it.
But also music.
Yes. But I don't know, man. Like, I feel like if you just start, like, trying to, like, play things by ear on that thing, you don't know what's going to happen to you.
Yeah, well, that's why I have...
That's
why I have money to pay bards with. I don't have that problem.
Right.
If you're just jamming out, like, jazz or improv or something like that, all of a sudden you might be at the beginning of time.
Yeah. Let's see. Next up comes from Tyrone Swift. He goes from 5 down to 1. Number 5 is cigarettes. Because if Solid Snake taught me anything, it's that you should always take these with you. You never know when you'll need to see laser traps. Sure, Naomi Hunter may call you and give some science jargon about lung cancer, but what does she know? Oh yeah, she knows science. Well, good for her. Tyrone, I love you. Number 4 is a lighter. Because you'll need to light the cigarettes to see the laser traps. Also, a lighter is useful for starting fires and basic puzzle solving mechanics. Sometimes you're in a dungeon and you need to light a torch on fire to open a secret door, or light an animal liver on fire as a sacrifice to an ancient god. I hear ancient gods like fire and sacrifices, so probably don't leave home without it. I don't know where you've been where you rent, just, or like, yeah, in case you need to light an animal liver on fire. I'm not about that life.
Not about that Tomb Raider life.
No. Well, no, if it's Laura, then yeah. Let's see. Number 3 from Tyrone Swift is Gishel Greens, which I know how to pronounce because of recent Final Fantasy games, because I always thought it was Geisal, but apparently it's Gissel, or at least that's how they say it on Final Fantasy 15. He says, now listen, if you're going on a long quest, there's going to be a lot of walking. So maybe catch a chocobo, so you can take a break. Just throw the Gishel Greens at that chocobo's cute face and beat up its bodyguards. It will then submit to your will and you can ride it. People may tell you that there are other types of greens, and they're right, but Gishel Greens are the best. Probably because they're the only ones I can remember by name. Number 2 is a picture of your beloved. Tyrone Swift says, look guys, at some point in your journey, you will reach a crossroads and ask yourself, why am I doing this? And that's when this picture will inevitably fall out of your pocket and remind you that your journey is important. Then, and only then, will you find the strength to keep going. May your waifu or husbando's image light your darkest hour, or provide you comfort in your alone times.
Now, here's one that I have a lot of questions about. So,
yes, I do too.
Like, he said you're beloved, but not like, I mean, is it your current beloved? Is it the one that you're feeling at the time? I mean, that could change, and that could be like one of those Harry Potter cards or something where, you know, there's like a different picture in the background or something. Or, you know, when he looks in the mirror and he sees the thing that he wants the most, like what if your beloved's the thing that you're loving the most, like right then and there? I mean, and then it could be changing women, you know, every second, or, you know, yeah, how do you judge that? And then if you're with somebody that's not your beloved, this could all backfire.
It could indeed. I think a lot of that sounds like a Patrick problem, but I see where you're getting at. and obviously we know that Tyrone Swift's photo would be that of Chun-Li. You didn't have to say it. We just knew.
But which version? And then are the other versions mad at the one that it...
How many thighs?
Only the one with the thickest thighs will count.
Yeah. 1,000 thigh death punch or kick or
Every time he looks in that mirror, you're doing the kick.
Mm-hmm. Last but not least from Tyrone Swift, lotion. To help moisturize your hands on your long journey, and definitely not to help comfort you in your alone times with the picture of Chun-Li you have in your inventory.
Oh my god.
Definitely not that. I mean, there's a lot of deserts, and mountains and all sorts of wear that's bad for your skin. I think we could all agree with that. No? Well, shut up. Tyrone Swift never ceases to entertain with his stage select picks. I appreciate that. They're some of the most fun to read. Let's see. San Andreas keeps it short and sweet. Number 1 is the double claw shots. Doubles as a weapon and a means of getting around. Patrick, is that a Zelda thing?
Claw shot?
Yeah, is that like the hook shot?
I mean, the hook shot is.
I don't know, claw shot. He'll have to comment and let me know. Because he didn't put the actual games. Most of you I can guess, but I don't recognize
That's
claw
what he
shots.
does.
Double
That
claw
sounds like
shots,
the
no
hook shot
less.
from Zelda to me.
That's what I was thinking,
know.
yeah. Maybe some upgrade from one of the games that I didn't play all the way through or something, which is most of them. Next up is the Knights of the Round materia. 129,987 damage and 1 attack is a must for long enemy battles. It is. I just don't want to go through the effort of, like, raising all those chocobos to actually get it. I saw it, like, someone at Game Fellas actually, like, brought in a, like, memory card save that had Knights of the Round. I got to see it. That was good enough for me. Never need to actually earn it myself. It is a ridiculously cool spell, though. It's like one of the, I think still the longest summon spell in Final Fantasy history. So, it's saying a lot.
Yeah, see, I was thinking about that, but then I was like, we're going to do something else that's either like best spells or best weapons, maybe. And that's why I didn't put it in the bag. I was saving that because I really do like that animation and wish I got to use it more in real life.
Yeah. Number 3. Oh, this one is funny because I just, we'll talk about it later, but he says either the Edelweiss or the Hafen as the transportation. Can't go wrong with a good tank. Squad 7, move out. Those are the tanks from Valkyria Chronicles 1 and 4 respectively. I think those tanks handle like ass and I find them extremely annoying, but we'll get to that later in Consumption Junction because I got a lot to get off my chest. Number 4 is the space jump from Metroid for getting through areas with no platforms and handholds. That's a good one. Because space jump, at that point, you can basically just fly. Like, your feet never have to touch the ground again if you don't want them to. You just keep on jumping, keep on somersaulting.
As long as it's not the wall jump.
No, this is literally just, you jump into and you do the somersault, and then once you're in somersault mode, you just keep on hitting that A button and just keep on somersaulting. And then once you combine that with the screw attack, you're basically invincible because the screw attack will kill anything. And, it's
screw attack is
brilliant.
good, just as long as it's not the wall jump from Super Metroid. We've talked about that.
Yes. Lastly from San Andreas, orthopedic underwear for, support on those long quests. Well, about time for me to be hitting the old dusty trail. I appreciate that San Andreas must have enjoyed my Peter Griffin impersonation from that last episode and put another Family Guy quote in there for me to do, although that was actually from, no, I did, okay. Peter says it, but I always think of, Carter Pewterschmidt saying it, so that's what I did. I'm sorry. Dishonor on me and my cow. Over on Twitter, we had a few. First one comes from Gabe the DM, who, as I mentioned earlier, is the host of the Arcade Memories podcast. You can find him on Twitter at InPartyConflict. Number 1 is grappling hook, definitely. Can't go wrong with that. Number 2, healing potions. Nobody wants to die. Number 3 is the wave beam from Super Metroid. Shoot enemies through walls. Number 4 is the Pip-Boy. Maps, data storage, and more. Yeah, that's a good one. And lastly, but definitely not least, Karibo's shoe from Super Mario Bros. 3, because goddamn. Because that one, I mean, that's basically like transportation and a weapon and protection all in one. That's a triple threat.
I don't think I ever got that far.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. I mean, it's only in one level, which is criminal. But Karibo's shoe is literally just a boot that Mario hops into, and then I think you can get hit from above. And obviously if you jump into a pit, you're gonna die. But other than that, like, spikes don't mess with you, like, you know, anything that comes under the boot just dies. So
I think it might have had a spring toy of that. I know we had the Tanuki spring toy. Anyway.
Yeah. It's something. You should definitely play Mario 3 to get to that level, because it's you'll just want to like hop around in there back and forth until you run out of time. Cool. Philip at PK Becker, always the one for brevity. 5 items for my satchel? Stim packs, plural. Philip doesn't want to die, guys. He wants to be sure that he's ready to go. Let's see. And last but certainly not least is Jeff S. On Twitter at JESTHOFF, or as I like to say, Jess the Hoff. Because I just like that. Number 1 is a med kit. Wrap a bandage around your arm for full health. Number 2 is the master key to get into any locked door. Number 3, Patrick, is the Ocarina of Time, warping and time travel. Yep. Number 4 is the Pokeball to capture any wild bear I need. Wild bear? I don't think that's gonna work. I don't think that's gonna catch a wild bear.
I mean, there's a Pokemon that's a set of keys, so there probably is one just called Bear at this point.
At this point, yeah. They do seem to be running out of steam on those ideas. Lastly, he says, maybe a companion like dog meat? It's bound to get a bit lonely, yeah? I didn't think about an animal companion. That's a good one. I don't really think of that. Is that an item?
I mean, I'm not going to objectify an animal like that.
We definitely played fast and loose with what I consider to be like an item in video game terms. But it was still a lot of fun. That's actually all that we've got for this edition of Stage Select. Thank you to everybody who wrote in. A lot of fun. I know it took us a long time to get to them. I apologize, but you know, that's why we do it. It's always fun to hear you guys' opinions. And man, the Ocarina, like, I would never have thought of the Ocarina at the time, and like that was by far like the most popular choice.
Doesn't that show you really like what makes something great? I think people love the fact that like gameplay is tied into music, and in a lot of ways music transports us anyway, but that was just like a visualization of the whole thing, and it made like the gameplay of one of the best games of all time into the best.
Yeah, it never ceases to amaze me just like the impact that game had. Not because it's a bad game or anything like that. It's just like it's so ubiquitous at this point and because it's like I played it and I didn't finish it because of, damn that water temple. But, I left it in 1998, like, and never looked back. But, for so many people, that is like, no, this is like the thing that made me love video games, or this is like the greatest game that I've ever played and will never be topped. And it's like, I get it, it's just definitely not what I think of, and it always blows me away.
Oops, sorry. I don't know if that would be my favorite game of all time, but I do know, now that I'm remembering it, that an Ocarina of Time was in my original sack. So
was it? Okay.
That was initially the teleportation device, now that I think about it.
Excellent. We'll just all throw it in our sack. I'll take out the holy hand grenade because time travel is probably more useful. What was that, Joey?
Oh, I said I still like my booze as my teleporter, so I'll keep that instead.
Yeah. I didn't actually get, so how does booze work as a teleportation device in Yakuza?
Oh, that's not a real thing. I just said, like, that would be a thing I could see Yakuza doing.
Okay. Cause like, when you saying it, I was like, oh yeah, cause I haven't played them all. I was like, I can totally see where like some random NPC is like, hey, you know how I can teach you how to teleport. And then he just like gets Kiryu like good and drunk, and then he wakes up like on the other end of Kamurocho, and he's like, "Oh wow, it worked." And he
if you think about it, booze is kind of like a nostalgic teleportation device. As you drink it, you think of like your old memories, good and bad.
I guess I've never been drunk enough to.
So it makes sense.
Yeah.
Usually I'm drinking to do the opposite of that. But,
to forget.
Plus I can cut holes and like ridges into it and just use it as an instrument. So that could work that way too.
Well, I think it's my turn for stage select, and I am excited to announce a pretty special one if you've been a visitor to Pixelbit from the long, long ago in the before time. You may remember back when we had like separate editors for different departments, our features editor, Jesse, who was the spearhead of the Missing in Action feature series. And we are going to have Jesse on the next episode to do Missing in Action. So what that is I'm going to want your top 3 games that are missing in action. And what that means is it has to be a game that has not had a game come out this generation and does not have a game in the works for this generation. Okay, so basically a dormant franchise. So it has to be something that has sequels. Like it can't just be like a one and done thing, because that's a different stage select for another day. So think about like storied franchises that you're a fan of that hasn't been seen in a while. Now, with all of the re-releases lately, I'll go ahead and let that slide. So if there's like a re-release that's come out, you know, like a remaster, that's fine because it's technically not like a new version, like a sequel to the game or anything like that. You know, so like for example, if you wanted to say Onimusha, even though there's that HD version coming out next year, I'll still allow that because there hasn't been an Onimusha game in almost 10 years at this point. So that's kind of like the guidelines for this. So put your thinking caps on. Maybe if you guys want to get creative with it, like what you would want to see from, you know, each of these games, like a brief description of maybe who you want to make it or how you see it evolving, anything like that. Also, if you're on Pixelbit, just go to the Pixelbit search function and search MIA, and you can read up on some of our old features that way to kind of get a gist of what we're doing. I actually need to go back and look through that because my goal is to not pick any of the games that we previously wrote about, which is going to be a little tricky. That should be a lot of fun. We're going to go ahead and want those submissions by 8:30 Central Time on October the 4th. That's when we'll be recording again. And you can always go to pixelbit.com and comment in the show thread for episode 138, or hit us up on Twitter at NWPcast. Or, you know, not a lot of people use it, but you can also go to facebook.com/nerdswithoutpants podcast. I think you can also just search for Nerds Without Pants podcast. Anyway, you can go on there and just throw a comment on there, and I will read those if there's any. There weren't for this one, so, you know, Facebook is kind of meh, but, you know, it's an extra option. So that's going to do it for this edition of Stage Select. Thank you, Patrick. This was a lot of fun. It took a while to empty the contents of my sack. I actually had like a blue sack for a while, but, you know, it feels good to finally get that like just emptied out and just everywhere. So appreciate it. Thank you for giving me release.
Well, it's important because if you just let things keep accumulating inside your sack, it'll explode.
Yes. No one wants that. All right, I'm done. That's it. Thank you for indulging me, listeners. We're going to go ahead and wrap up this and roll on into Consumption Junction.
The bond of friendship we share like brothers. Together as one, just me and my bros on a journey.
Okay, and we're back. We're going to try to keep this one a little tight for reasons, because I'm so very, very tired. But, Joey, this is actually your first Consumption Junction because, you know, your other episode was just a special all about Kiryu and Majima and all that good stuff. So, what have you been up to, like, you know, gaming-wise or other geeky media consumption-y type stuff?
Pretty much as far as gaming, I was playing Spider-Man pretty much all last week, the new one that came out. I bought it a day after it came out and was playing pretty much just that.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
And then just a lot of, I think you mentioned this earlier in the episode, but I bought a Super Nintendo Classic, and I've been playing a ton of that as well. So, how much, I guess, what do you want me to talk about with Spider-Man or Super Nintendo? I'm not really sure where to go with this right now.
Oh, we can hit both for sure. I'm definitely curious how you're finding Spider-Man because, we'll get to it when I go, but all I wanted to do for the last couple of weeks was play Spider-Man, and I had a review commitment that took precedence, so I've just been hate playing a game for review for the last 2 weeks, hurling obscenities at my television on a nightly basis, and then just staring forlornly at my Spider-Man case sitting on my coffee table. So.
Oh, that's sad. I'm sorry. I read your review for that game just now and posted a comment, but I'll let you get to that whenever you... Because I feel like there's a rant coming, so I'll let that happen.
Yes, yeah, it'll just happen.
Flow.
Yeah. As far as Spider-Man, so I wasn't necessarily expecting it to be obviously the same swinging mechanics as Spider-Man 2. Everybody else is praising it for the navigation and the traversal, and I do like it. It's really good. But I would say like a lot of the stuff in that game so far, and I say so far, but I've actually got it pretty much 100% at this point.
Oh, jeez.
Aside from like a few trophies that are missing for the platinum. So like I've done all the crime tokens, I've done all the crime missions, I've done all the challenge missions, even though like I can never seem to get those like at the perfect level. So I'm going to be missing some items because of that, and I might give up on it soon. I'm not sure. I've gotten all the landmarks and all that stuff. So I've gotten like the 100%, like, if I load the game up, it says you have 100%, even though if I go to my trophies, it says 95%. So that's where I'm at.
Gotcha.
So as far as the game, pretty much, the combat is really good to me, except it doesn't have the same flow as the Arkham games. It actually, and I've said this before, probably not on any shows or anything, but like, whenever people bring up Arkham as being like the impetus for the Spider-Man combat that they saw in those trailers for 2018, I kind of thought more about Spider-Man 2 anyway. Cause like it doesn't have the same flow, but like all the same ideas are there. Like getting all of these abilities and combos. There's fewer combos in this current one. It's a little more streamlined. But stuff like that, and like the Spidey sense where like you move away from enemies, I feel like some people seem to think that started in Arkham, whereas that's been in Spider-Man games forever. I kind of miss that flow from the Arkham games. But at the same time, I think they did a good job of making combat its own thing, where like you can beat an enemy by like webbing him to a wall or webbing him to the ground, so you don't have to deal with him anymore.
Right.
There's a lot of like techniques that revolve around web slinging, which are really cool. The way that one thing I will say is that at a certain point in the game, it becomes really hard to dodge attacks consistently because they just throw so much shit at you. That's especially the case for, I'm not going to say what exactly it is because I don't know if this would count as a spoiler or not, but just in case, there's like kind of this private military organization, that gets hired that's starting to try and look for Spider-Man. And especially towards the end, like, they'll start having, like, literal tanks with, like, these giant, turret guns on you. 3 or 4 guys will be shooting at you at the same time. And then
it's the Arkham City, like, escalation thing where the further you get in the story, like, the more obnoxious the enemies get as far as, like, picking you off when you're not really aware of them. And,
But to be fair, like, I don't think, there's only a couple of times that you have to deal with that if all you want to get through is the story. But if you want to do all the side content, you're going to run into that a few times, and it gets pretty annoying where, like, you press O to dodge a bunch of times, and then it doesn't work because there's just too much shit coming at you at once. And so I think they
Right.
want you to use stealth, which is also in the game, which the stealth is what really reminded me of Arkham in this game. Because, like, to the point where like, Batman would, use a bat claw to, like, hang somebody upside down from a gargoyle, like, pretty much Spider-Man does the same thing, but with a web on a light post. Like, but it's the same
Right.
mechanic. Like, he has a few gadgets that you can use. Like, the one I used the most was this one that you throw this little web thing at the ground and you make an enemy go near it, and then it'll, like, you know, grab them and, like, push them on the ground and make them web to the ground. But yeah, the stealth is a lot like Arkham, except for the fact that sometimes, especially with those military units, it seems like they definitely want you to use stealth. Only it works whenever they have, like, an enclosed space for you to do it in the story. But when you're, like, open in New York City and they want you to use stealth, and it's like, there's, like, one high point I could do anything from. Like, how are you wanting me to go about this? Like, how are you really wanting me to do stealth? Like, there's, like, 10 guys in, like, this compressed area. How am I supposed to do this without doing combat? And so some of that got annoying, but that, again, that's just because I played, like, all the side content. If you're going through the story, you'll be fine. For the most part, aside from, like, that happening once or twice. And then as far as the story itself, it was good. It definitely mixes. I talked to, Casey Curran a lot on Twitter about this. Him and Blake, who listened to the show, they were, Blake was a really big fan of the story. Casey and I were kind of mentioning how much there was, like there was a certain scene at the end that is very much Amazing Spider-Man 1. There's a lot of stuff that feels really referential to Spider-Man 2. There's, like, bits and pieces from Homecoming. You know, there's, like, basically the story is just kind of like a mesh of all of the movies that have come out recently. Even some of like the fan service they use is kind of like references to those movies.
Yeah.
Getting back to the traversal, I do miss the weight from, like, Spider-Man 2. I always liked how they used both triggers for that. Whereas in this new Spider-Man, you can just press R2 and pretty much almost have it on autopilot at certain times. Like, you might lose momentum and then, like, start swinging back, but for the most part, you can just kind of press R2 a bunch. And for me, that takes some of the weight away from it. Even though you do have to attach to buildings and you do have to attach to trees or anything in the area, it still takes some of the weight away from me. But the thing that I think people are praising it for is that they give you so many options, especially when you start unlocking things, to, like, continue the flow of traversal. Like, you can run up walls, like, you can jump off of, like, parts of walls. So, like, you can pretty much get yourself to, like, never be stopped, even if you're in an area where you would in a different Spider-Man game. So it is pretty fun to, like, go around New York City. And the thing I've been having the most fun with is just going around New York City and taking pictures of the landmarks, which is one of the things I do. So, yeah, that's honestly what's been one of the most fun things for me, is just going around New York City and being like, oh, this, like, I've never been there, but it's like, oh, this does look like what I've seen from pictures and stuff. Like, you know.
No. I have to ask, because I know there's a lot of, like, Marvel references in the city. And there's one, because a lot of this has been spoiled for me. It's not really spoiled. I mean, it's sort of like, if you know the Marvel characters that live in New York City, like, you should kind of expect, if they're going to go that route, that these buildings would be there. Mm-hmm. Is the Baxter building there? Which is the Fantastic Four's building with the big number 4 at the top.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I know the Avengers Tower is in there.
Yeah, I knew the Avengers Tower was in there.
I don't remember if Baxter Tower is in there or not, because there's a bunch of landmark tokens that you use. Anytime that you do side content, you earn tokens for it. So that's why I'm saying tokens. But, like, there's a bunch of landmark tokens you get, like, in the main game that they just put on the map, like, go here, take this picture. And then there's, like, 50 more that are, like, secret, and you unlock an item that gets you all of the secret ones. So maybe it's in there. I'm, like, 40 out of 50 for the secret one, so maybe it's in there and I haven't seen it. And maybe it could also be that I don't remember it. Is that, like, I vaguely am thinking maybe I did see something called the Baxter Building, but I was just kind of, you know, drilling through all of this stuff to do in that game, so it might have just skipped my memory.
Like me, you're probably thinking Baxter Stockman.
Yeah, from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right?
No? Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I just, It may be one of those things where they put it in there, but they didn't actually make the giant number 4 on the top. So it's like, it really sticks out. But like, for me, it's like, if that's not in there, that's, I understand why it wouldn't be in there. But at the same time, like the Fantastic Four are such a big part of Spider-Man, like his history and stuff like that, that it would be sad for that to not be represented.
I'll have to look for it next time I play it. But the event, I mean, it's weird that they wouldn't make it prominent though, if it is in there, because like Avengers Tower is like, I don't think it's bigger than Empire State in the game, but it's like getting close to the same size as far as I can tell.
Yeah, and that's also interesting because if the reason that the Fantastic Four building isn't in there is because of Fox owning that property, well, you know, Spider-Man is a Sony film property, and then Avengers is still, you know, under the Disney/MC, you know, Marvel Universe or Marvel Studios umbrella. So clearly they worked together to get that done, but I guess Fox doesn't play ball as well. It doesn't matter anymore. But, you know, I know this game has been in development for a while.
Right. Yeah, I was about to say, didn't they just eat them up anyway? But I don't know what they ate up and what they left. So.
Oh, they ate up everything. Like it's not. I mean, it's all of Fox. Okay. But
I thought they were fighting to keep the Simpsons for some reason, which I didn't. Whatever.
Oh, I don't know. All I care about is that we might finally get a good X-Men movie. And what I mean by that is an X-Men movie that actually reflects the characters' personalities and the fact that they're a team of mutants and not Wolverine the movie part 15. But I digress.
But the Simpsons are good again, though.
Are they? We were just talking about that on the Yakuza special about if anybody's actually watching it still.
I randomly saw it on Hulu or something like that. I saw the new season. They were, satirizing Game of Thrones, and I was like, well, this was like The Simpsons if it were influenced by Bob's Burgers.
All right. That's got me interested enough to check it out.
That just makes me want to watch more Bob's Burgers, if I'm being totally honest.
But sometimes you've seen every episode 5 times, though, and you just need to go back to something else.
I actually haven't seen every episode of Bob's Burgers. I've only seen a handful. But I do like
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. You could get really addicted to that for months on end, I think.
I'm like a season behind. I need to rectify that. I just keep rewatching Brooklyn Nine-Nine episodes.
Yeah, I guess as far as Consumption Junction for TV shows, I've been watching BoJack Horseman. Do either of you watch that show?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's fun.
Yeah, I found out season 5 came out via Twitter, there's all these Netflix shows that are coming out that I have to find out from social media. Because anytime I'm on Netflix, I don't see it. I see all of the crappy movies that they made that they're promoting the crap out of, but these things I'm really interested in. I'm like, why would you not tell me that when I log in? There's apparently the creators of Avatar: The Last Airbender are making a new, that might actually be out already. I had to find that out through Facebook. I was like, what the hell?
Oh, their new cartoon?
Yeah.
Their algorithms. Sorry.
Go ahead.
What's that?
Their algorithm is screwed up because they're trying to make the user interface friendly, but the user experience is not so friendly because of all the ways they're trying to filter things. And there's different ways to filter things even between regions of apps. And a lot of people are calling it a hidden way to search movies you might not even realize are in your Netflix app because some of the algorithms don't pull certain movies that are actually in the app or able to be streamed, but just because the filter's wrong, it won't even grab it for you. So yeah, you might not even know what's on there when you look.
Well, the weird
because every Halloween, I always spend all of October binging horror movies, but it's wait, this is all that's on there? But I know that's not all the horror movies that are on Netflix, but I have to start manually searching for certain movies. It's oh, okay, that one's available, because it's just they only show you X amount from each genre. It's really annoying.
Well, the weird thing is, everything I just mentioned, BoJack Horseman, that Avatar: Last Airbender cartoon, even the Castlevania Season 2, which I'm interested in, those are all Netflix originals. So it's why are you not selling me? Maybe they are, and I'm just skipping past it each time, but I haven't noticed it on the actual website or app. So
I think part of the problem is that there's so many Netflix originals now. They're coming out at a blistering pace, and it's hard to keep up. It's everything is a Netflix original now. It's that's almost entirely what I see, as far as new releases and what's hot and everything like that. And then it's plus this, you can watch Black Panther.
Yeah, and like 2 years ago, I think it was, or maybe even just a year ago, South Park even had like a satirizing episode that was like, you don't have an option screenplay for Netflix, Kyle?
Nice.
Oh, South Park's coming back next week.
Nice.
But I do have to ask Joey, because like you're younger than us, and getting the Super Nintendo Classic, how much of that is like just a completely new world to you, and how much of it is like just playing it for the memories? Like, you know, because obviously, I mean, you're 10 years younger than me, like exactly, but you know that doesn't mean that I don't assume that you haven't played Super Nintendo games because of that, because like, you know, Super Nintendo was still going strong when you would have been like old enough to play video games. And then of course, like systems like that tend to last because, you know, hand-me-downs, or, you know, they get cheaper. So it's easier to, you know, acquire, you know, a machine, especially like for a kid, you know, who maybe doesn't need the PlayStation in 1996 or whatever when it's brand new. So what are you experiencing with this classic? Is it mostly nostalgia, or is it like, ooh, like I didn't even know that this existed?
Most of it's nostalgia.
Okay.
I don't think there's anything on it that I didn't know existed, just because Super Nintendo was so ubiquitous in gaming culture that I would have at least heard about most of the stuff through the grapevine. In fact, there's one game that's not on it, and they would never put this on there, but like I played Uniracers a lot as a kid.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you remember that. So
yeah, I do.
Yeah, whenever you say hand me down, like I've said in the comments a couple of times, like I'll mention something about like an NES game or an SNES game I played, and a lot of times Angelo would chime in and be like, well, no, his first system was the N64, and that's true as far as like the system that was mine. But I grew up with an older brother who was 6 years older than me, and so I grew up having like both NES and SNES in the house. So like it doesn't. So
setting the record straight.
No, I mean, I'm just saying, like, I think a lot of people focus on my age, but whenever you mention the thing about hand-me-downs, like, that's exactly what's happening. Like,
yeah.
I have a lot of knowledge about, like, 90s alternative music that I used to hate and like now because I grew up in a household where the other brother was, you know, listening to it. Like, so there's a lot of, like, 90s stuff that I do know about just because I imbibed some of it from, like, his, you know, entertainment habits, right?
Yeah. So you're saying, like, you became a Limp Bizkit fan recently, huh?
No, not recently. That was actually more, that was really more my generation than his, honestly, that I remember. Because, like, I remember being, like, 10 years old and buying, 10 or 11 years old and buying chocolate starfish in the hot dog flavored water.
Oh,
which is,
hell
like,
yeah.
the ugliest album cover of all time.
Because it was trying to say it's shit, right?
Well, I think I think there's, like, a joke in there that I didn't get until, like, way after I probably should have gotten it. Same thing with, and this is definitely my generation, but like Blink-182's Take Off Your Pants and Jacket. It took way too many years for me to realize that was a good one.
Don't feel bad. Like I didn't get that until I think Angelo mentioned it on the podcast. I was like, oh, but I also I don't think I'd actually heard the term or was aware of it because I'm not hip or with it. But for context, I saw Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure when I was 9 and didn't get the 69 joke until I was in my mid to late 20s. So don't feel bad.
No, and
I was like, oh, it's just a number that they both know.
And I mean, you grew up Jehovah's Witness, I grew up Catholic, so, you know, it kind of makes sense.
Pretty sheltered.
Right. I grew up Catholic too, and that was one of my first, Take Off Your Pants and Jacket was one of my first parental advisory CDs, and I got it because I put my thumb over the parental advisory sticker, so it was probably me who said this, but like, yeah, my mom was like, do you get what the title is? Because, I mean, I don't want to get this for you, but if you don't get it, I'll get it.
That's funny. No,
I was like, yeah, Mom, my pants and my jacket. What do you mean?
Yeah. I'll go back to the Super Nintendo in a second, but I just want to say the one thing I remember from that Limp Bizkit album, it was a Walmart censored version. And there's like the very second track, and like there was one time I played it in like my parents' minivan without really thinking about it. How they'd react, and there's like the second song is like he's literally counting how many times you can say the F word, and it's like all of that is bleeped out except for like shit and or like there are like 2 or 3 curse words that aren't bleeped out for some reason. It makes no sense.
They just didn't catch it.
Yeah.
There was so much to bleep that like they just like missed it.
There's levels of curse words, Julian. There's some that are acceptable, some that are slightly unacceptable, and then the ones you just can't say on censored versions. But
Oh, I remember, because like I remember as the years went on, like watching like primetime television with my mother and seeing like they just said bitch on Designing Women, like that's a no word, and then that became like common, and then like ass became a common word, and it's just like it was weird to like see like things evolve over time where it's like all of a sudden like it's like even now I'll like watch something like you can say that on television.
It's my generation.
Well, it's kind of funny that you mentioned that because I used to work. I was the station manager for KSAU, which is like the Stephen F. Austin radio station. That's a university in like East Texas. That's where I went. But anyway, they had the teacher basically said like, yeah, okay, so yes, like according to FCC rules, you can say ass, but I would prefer that you keep it at a minimum level because like apparently the year that went into effect, it's like some kid got a hold of that and just said nothing but that for like 10 minutes straight. And I guess David Letterman had some sort of bit about it when it happened or whatever too. So got a whole story.
It's like the shit on South Park episode where, like they even said like after the fact, like, yeah, they cleared us to say it, but they didn't know that we were going to say it that many times.
Yeah.
What was that for? Was that for bitch?
No, for shit. They're going to say shit on South Park and they'd have the little counter.
Right, yeah, because shit was in the top tier of swears, but recently it's come down to the mid tier.
Yeah.
I would even say like mid-low tier.
Yeah.
But I have derailed this so hard.
No, that's fine.
It's okay. I love having talks about linguistics, especially when it's like vulgar statements, because we gotta make sure that we keep this parental advisory sticker that we got going. Like we have to make sure we swear when we can for the folks who listen.
Julian should
like
just
shock
edit
value.
Oh, sorry, Patrick. Julian should just edit in George Carlin's 7 dirty words at a random point.
Hell yeah.
All right, but anyway, so as far as Super Nintendo Classic, I guess the game I played the most according to the system, because you can press select and it'll tell you like, here's what you played the most. And I know it counts it based on number of times, because there are definitely some games in there where I'm like, I have not played this the most in terms of hours at all. But I guess it's just I've booted it up more. But like, it's definitely true for Donkey Kong Country. That's a game I probably played the most. I used to rent that one a lot. I got way farther in that game than I ever have before. So like I got past the snow world recently. And I don't like how few and far between those save points are. And I realize that I can reset the system and just save like, I can have like a manual save for it if I want to, but I kind of want to just do, pretty much anything except Mega Man X. I'm trying to do it legit without using like save points. The only reason I'm doing it for Mega Man is because like I'm not going to write down a code in 2018.
Yeah, there's no reason to.
But yeah, like Donkey Kong Country, like it took me literally, I think, like almost 30 tries to get past this like level on the snow world that had like too many damn barrels in it. And like that's what spent it. Like the cart level is what a lot of people talk about for being hard, I seem to find, but like to me that wasn't really that bad. Like every level with like a bunch of barrels in it is what, and I know people have talked about this too, but like that's what it took me out so much.
That is always what I hear when people like, especially people like my age and older in the media will say like, yeah, Donkey Kong Country does not hold up well. And they almost always cite like where it ends up almost like playing itself, where like you hop into one barrel and then it's just kind of like, shooting you left and right. And then you're aiming every once in a while to make this one shot. But otherwise he's just like, pinballing around.
Well, the pinballing around is fewer and farther between than you actually controlling it. I would prefer like a little bit more, because like I think they do the pinballing around as kind of like a breather for you, because like it happens every so often. But like, especially in the barrels that are like faced at each other, like those aren't hard to time. But there are barrels that are like going in 8 directions, like all around, and those are like if you hit a split second off, you'll go right instead of upright. Or diagonally right, and that'll just completely screw you for the level. And that's why that one of them,
Yeah.
Need like a slowdown timer where you hold it and then like it lets you know where you're gonna shoot yourself, like kind of like a Yoshi's egg or something like that.
Yeah, which I have played Yoshi's Island as well too. So that's been fun.
They have a rewind feature on there, right?
They do.
Like on a system level?
I believe they do, but I haven't really, like I said, I'm kind of trying to play these games like they were meant to be played, like when they originally came out.
Sure.
How closely I'll stick to that will depend on how frustrated I get. So far, it's been like I knew that Donkey Kong Country was going to frustrate me that way, so I'm still going to try to play it the legit way. But yeah, I believe it does some, like the only thing that they really let you know about on the game screen itself, on the menu screen itself, is the, that you have the option to create manual saves. Like you can make 4 of them for each game, I think.
Cool.
Yeah. Is there anything in particular you wanted to get my thoughts? One thing I will say is, I used to play F-Zero a lot in like hotels. They would always like kind of advertise the SNES in hotels and say like, look at this Mode 7 graphics that we got going on. Mode 7 in both that and Super Mario Kart 1, it's really hard to tell what's ahead of you because of the pop-in. Like, you cannot see very far ahead of you at all. And I forgot that about those games. Like, I did not remember that I remember a lot of Super Mario Kart, especially from childhood. I didn't remember that, like, 10 feet in front of you is just haze for most of the time. And then with F-Zero, I forgot that it was one player, which was surprising to me. To have a racing game
I didn't even know that.
Player. Yeah, no, F-Zero, apparently it's always been one player, and I didn't know that either. And then I think I might have heard that, like with, I think Angry Video Game Nerd might have done a video about it or something that I caught. I don't remember. But when I played it, I was like, oh, this is legit just a one-player game. Like, why would you make a racing game like that?
Yeah.
That's weird. But the 2 games that I played most in childhood are Super Mario World and Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, and so, yeah, if you want my opinion on any other games, I'll give it to you, but I don't want to, there's 21 games on it, I don't want to keep you forever, so.
I'm really interested in not understanding, but getting your opinion on Street Fighter 2 Turbo versus the new Street Fighters.
Well, to be
particularly
honest,
4 and 5.
To be honest, Street Fighter 2 Turbo, I probably played on my brother's SNES more than including Super Mario World. I might have played that even more than any other game. It would be pretty close between that and Super Mario World, but I might have played it a little bit more. But now as an adult looking back, I was wondering, why do I seem to, I remember all of the levels, but I was like, why do I seem to remember Dulcine's level the best of all? And it turns out that's because that's the first person that you play on Turbo mode. And so that means I was getting my ass kicked as a kid, and I just don't remember it. Because that game is way tougher than I remember it being. But then I think about it, I'm like, oh no, I probably just put it in versus mode a lot, to play it.
It's funny you say that because I don't have it anymore, but I had this arcade ambience music file. It was I think a 3-hour long music track, and it was just ambient arcade sounds from 1993, and you can hear stuff you can definitely hear here's the ticket games and stuff, and you can hear people playing skee-ball and stuff, but then you also hear Ninja Turtles, but then you hear Street Fighter, obviously, and it's funny because it's definitely on the attract mode, and so you'll hear the first bit of Dulcine's theme, and it's yeah, I remember just even in the attract mode, it's always Dulcine. Well, not always, but you see Dulcine's stage a lot, in that game.
Yeah, well, I guess if you start on normal mode instead of turbo, I think it's Ken that you fight first, but yeah, on turbo mode, it's always Dulcine that you fight first.
Yeah.
As far as how I feel between then and now, I know Julian, you don't like Street Fighter 3, correct? You're not a big fan of Third Strike?
It's not that I don't like it. That's the moment when that game got overly complicated to me, and I also hate the cast. Really? There's a handful, very small handful of characters in Street Fighter 3 that I like, and most of them I think are just obnoxious looking freaks.
Okay.
Like Oro and
Q and 12 and Necro. Like, they're the worst. Gil is the worst.
Kind of like Necro.
I don't remember half of those characters by name, but I do remember liking, I rented like this PS2 collection of Street Fighter games at one point, and I do remember like Third Strike being one of my, like, kind of my go-to, just mostly because I like the animation in it, to be honest.
Right.
Because I do think like that animation is some of the most fluid I've seen in a fighting game. I like the sprites and all that. As far as like Street Fighters 4 and 5, I went like the 360 Wii and PS3 generation. I went that entire generation with no consoles, nothing to go on, just because I was working. I was working at a university for a residence life department, which they pay you in room and board, so I just didn't have an income to justify a game console. So that's why. And so I just kind of looked at Street Fighter 4 and envy, but I only ever played it at kiosks, so I don't really have much of an opinion on that. Street Fighter 5 I was really excited for, and then I rented it at Redbox when it first came out, and there was so little content that I was pissed that I even rented it. So, because it had like nothing in it. So I don't really have like solid opinions on Street Fighter games, just because like 3 I haven't played. I just know that I really like the way it looks. 4 I only played at kiosks, and then 5 I rented it once and was like, where the hell's arcade mode? Where's story mode? Where's anything except for this online stuff? Like, I am not a professional online gamer. Like, fighting games are the ones I suck at most. None of this means anything to me.
Right. I'm trying to hide in single player.
I literally in Guilty Gear XR'd, I got to a point where I can beat the game with almost every character on like the highest difficulty. I go into like an online hub and then fight one person who's supposedly matched to my level and just get my ass completely blown away.
Actually, I was thinking about getting that because the fight stick that I've got has like a touchpad in the middle, and Guilty Gear XR apparently has like this this touchpad enabled gameplay element that is apparently the reason why you should get the Street Fighter 5 stick, but I'm not really sure about that, and was also wondering if I should, as a guy who's played BlazBlue and King of Fighters a little bit, but never really gotten in any of them. I'm not really sure how that kind of animation sets in compared to those other two that are more of the juggling in the air style, I think.
Oh, Guilty Gear is definitely that same juggling in the air style. Like, there are whole combos based on like pushing your opponent in the air and like beating the crap out of them as far up the screen as you can go. Those are harder to execute, but they have that in there. Like, it's very, I'm never going to talk somebody out of getting a Guilty Gear game. If you want it, go ahead and get it. Is the way I do it, because I love that series.
Yeah, I like really beautifully animated stuff and really awesome super combos.
Yeah. And apparently they fixed Street Fighter 5. Like, apparently the arcade mode has like all the stuff that I would have wanted to be in it.
Yeah. I was about to tell you that it is actually really good, so I was hoping that you had played it like recently, because Julian's not going to change his opinion for a few years at least. But
it still plays like Street Fighter 5, so that's my problem with it. And their character designs are possibly the worst that the series has ever seen. When they unveiled G at Evo this year or whatever, I was like, I'm done.
What was bad about it? I don't understand.
Everything about him is bad. Apparently his moves are good, but like his voice, his shtick, he looks like an ape. Like his face looks like a monkey man with like mutton chops, and he's supposed to be like this like President Lincoln wannabe. And
nice.
No, like, just no. And I was already angry about Abigail, who's just, ugh.
Yeah. See, he was my last DLC character in the last season. He's so big, and he's actually fun to play as, but the thing is, like, the sprite itself looks so overpowering that it's not really fair in terms of perspective from the outside. But it was weird because when I actually got to play as him, I was like, this is a grappler I don't really mind. And I don't really play as Zangief type characters that often, but I really did like it once I got, yeah. And that felt weird to me because I didn't want to like him, but I had to.
And then I got excited when they were going to add Blanca back into the game, and then I saw him and I was like, Oh, no thank you.
Yeah, I don't really notice the style that much, to be honest. But I mean, I guess as an old fan or something, it'd be tough to see something different in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And again, like I just don't like the fundamental, like, gameplay of that one. Like, it feels very slow, and, you know, just the metagame of the way it's played is such a, like, shift from, like, what I learned, what I've spent, 30 years learning, that, it's Street Fighter has gone to a place that, is beyond me. And, I have my Street Fighter 30th anniversary collection to enjoy. And, it's like I can still play Alpha 3 on there, and that makes me happy.
Have either of you played Tekken 7?
Yeah.
I actually got pretty addicted to that game for a while. That was my go-to fighter for a little bit. It was just fun. Like, I wasn't expecting, was Tekken, you probably have a better memory of this, Julian or Patrick. Because, like, I definitely remember Tekken 1 through 3 on PlayStation, but I kind of stopped paying attention after that. Especially like Tekken 3, I definitely remember. But, like, Tekken games in general, were the rounds always that short? Because in Tekken 7, they're like 20 seconds, and, like, that kind of floored me, because I didn't remember that offhand.
You mean as far as the actual timers, or just as far as, like, how the flow goes?
I guess both. Like, because you really don't have that much time. Like, I think the timer even is, like, maybe on 30 seconds or something from what I played of it. Like, at most a minute.
I think it's a little quicker, just like there's only 4 buttons versus 6 or 8.
Yeah.
I think the timer, like, if I remember correctly in the older games, it was like at 99 seconds or something like that. But rounds would typically go pretty quickly, and I rarely ever saw, like, a timeout, because just the way that, like, the damage ratios were done and the flashiness of the combos and stuff like that, like, they would be over pretty quickly, especially if you were, like, a really skilled player that, once you got someone into that, like, 10 string, and if you knew how to execute that 10 string combo, then that was game over for that round for that player, Like, if you were king and you know how to do those grapple combos, like, it's going to be over in seconds.
I guess that's probably the reason I remember it taking longer, because, like, we probably all sucked at it as kids, and then nobody knew those 10-hit combos, and, like, probably it was paused a lot so that people could learn the combos, and they never did.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of pausing in old fighting games, but in these new ones, I feel like even when you get to the very end of the battle, the other person has some sort of rage combo where they get, like, additional attack percentages, and even if they're the one who's down late, they'll be able to do something else really fast that ends up ending the match really quickly anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But I do like the DLC characters in Tekken 7. I think Noctis is a great inclusion, and he got me, like, really addicted for a while. And my friends, when they came over to have like a LAN party, we actually played Tekken 7 the most because it's the easiest to pick up, but it's also pretty hard to master because of, like, the Simon Says 10-hit type combos that are ingrained into it. But then there's, I think Street Fighter is more the pure game where you have to do everything almost exactly, and, like, the input is less forgiving. It also, I think, has a better storyline than Tekken 7. Tekken 7's probably got the most haphazard thrown together, like, I don't know, additional elements to it, but
that is, like, shocking for me to hear you say that.
Go play Mortal Kombat X and then go to Tekken 7 and think about how much they played up Tekken 7 having a story mode, and it's just like, why would you play that up?
Yeah.
Everything I've heard about Tekken 7's storyline is phenomenal, and then Street Fighter 5 sound like just like an abortion. Like,
I mean, the Tekken 7 story isn't like, I wouldn't say it's, like, terrible, but it's just, there's not really that much to it. Whereas, like, coming off of, fighting games now having, like, Mortal Kombat X is now, to me, kind of the standard for, like, story and fighting games if you want to have one.
Right.
And so going from,
it's the best.
I pretty much went directly from that to Tekken 7, and Tekken 7 had, like, advertisements saying, like, we got a story mode, look at this. And it just, it's there, but there was no reason to, like, advertise it as heavily as they did.
Then there was also the character stories that were different from the regular story, and that was cool to add, but they only had, like, panels where they were going to flesh out cinematic quality, and I felt like they didn't have the value there where they should have. But where it really shines is like the customizability and being able to get different items that you wouldn't even be able to get in other games. I mean, it's pretty great when you have like this prize money that you could put toward different heads for different characters, shiny options and things. And you don't have to pay $5 or $10 like you do in Street Fighter, but yeah, also have more customizability and it's free. Yeah. So yeah, they really do good with the bells and whistles, but I think the story just needed that polish that it got from either Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat the most.
Wait, you know what? Fuck it! Let's kill some guy tonight! We're holding hands and laughing while we shank him in the starlight. Let's take a motherfucking life tonight. We're young and alive. Wish I could see for that guy. Yeah! Let's kill 5 guys tonight. The cherry cola while we blast a savage drive-by. Let's kill 10 guys tonight. You know what? It's first date. Let's pump the brakes on the murders. Let's kill 5 guys tonight. I'll take you back to your place and we'll craft a perfect alibi. Man, we had fun tonight. We're young and alive.
Well, we've gone far too long on fighting games in a time when we've been talking about them a lot recently. So, Patrick, what have you been up to, sir?
So I had one of my most humongous like sessions where I just got into a game in the last week or two. In recent memory, when I heard Julian got into The Witcher, it was like, well, I should try that again, with not having Wi-Fi this month because like I had a roommate issue where she moved in one day and moved out one day and didn't get us Wi-Fi. And now we have to get another roommate. So we can't go online in my house. Like I've been looking at single player stuff. So Neo is out for me because like at the part that I'm at right now, apparently you need to get like these Ochoko things or like there's basically soul callers where like you could get a second person in like a Souls game and you could play through like hard parts. But if not, you have to like level yourself up like to no end. And either way, you have to like farm these things because when you get people, there's no guarantee they're not going to just die right away or,
right.
or jump off a cliff or jump into water, which you can't swim in Neo for some reason, which is just, come on. Like, so I switched to a game that's not only more forgiving now that I've played Neo, but also just more intuitive in the fact that you can actually swim, which, I mean, we've talked about this before, but The Witcher 3, man, it's, once you finally get into it, it's like definitely the best game that was, like around that time period in terms of like a sci-fi story for how the quests are structured, how intricate the magic system is. The gameplay itself is just very involved and like, menu based, but, apart from some minor gripes that like aren't really, quelled in other video games, I think that there's no question they put more time into The Witcher 3 during 2015 than any other game had gotten into it. And so that's actually like the beginning of a new segment that I wanted to debut in this podcast. And I'm not really sure whether or not I can dethrone it, but I want to call it Here Comes a New Challenger because fuck. In 2015, I picked Bloodborne for my game of the year.
For Chrono Crossing.
For Chrono Crossing. We finished it and listeners may love it as like one of the big sections that we had in the past or the segments that we've used to do and can't do anymore because we got all the way back to the beginning of video games. But then I thought to myself while I was about to fall asleep in the last month or so, like what if we got like a game that we didn't play during that year that actually is better? And like what would be the best way to take it down? So here comes a new challenger. It's Bloodborne versus The Witcher 3. And here's what I'm thinking, guys. I loved Bloodborne, like, at the time that I played it, but it was also, like, my first Souls game that I really played in earnest. It didn't have some things that, like, The Witcher does have in droves. And, like, it took years to make some of these things that you just can't put it to the side when you're comparing the two games together. Like, they both have great gameplay, although The Witcher does have more involved gameplay. It's also less forgiving, so people may be like, but it's not, like, so hard. And maybe they're not playing it on the top difficulty, because I did have trouble getting into it for a while, but even on hard right now, I'm having a really easy time once I've gotten like 10 hours in. Like I've not died again in the next 20 hours or so. And I
just don't think the combat is very good. Like it's serviceable. But
in The Witcher or
on the Witcher. Oh no, Bloodborne,
okay.
I think the combat's fantastic. That's
See,
really
it feels better, but it's not as in depth, I think. It's more dodge based and building yourself up with the right agility or ability points, and you can get away with like screwing up in The Witcher sometimes, especially mid to late game. But I just think there's more options to putting your ability points into. Like there's no real magic system or alchemy system like there is in The Witcher, and there's like 25 abilities for each.
Yeah.
Although in the magic system for The Witcher, they have an Igni tree, but they don't have like an ice tree. And I'm not really sure why you can control fire, but you can't control ice. Although you have a chance to freeze.
Eyes? He's just that fiery.
Yeah, I mean, you have some abilities to control it in like your weaponry with like enchantments, like the ability to freeze things. But it's interesting, like something that has a whole tree fleshed out for air, Ard, which is apparently one of the big spirits like in the world, wouldn't have ice if they have fire right next to it. And the reason is because they have like this thing, Yurden, which is like basically you cast this circle around the ground, and anything that's like phasing in and phasing out like a ghost won't be able to in that area. It also will slow down, lose vitality. So it's kind of like a big defense matrix that is like invisible, and when like a ghost gets in it, I mean, I'm just trying to say like that's one example of the complicated and uncommon types of magic that you'll get to use in this game. And I wish it was even more fleshed out, but it's a great start. And compared to other things around during that time, it's like second to none. And that's the same way that the characters are developed, and the same way that the story is developed as well. And that's really where Bloodborne's lacking, even though you could say Bloodborne's great, like subconsciously below the surface, there's all this stuff happening. But that's also another way of saying we didn't really have a big budget to create something we really wanted to. And so we did the most with what we could minimalistically. Yeah. I just feel like when you go with like an entire team of people that creates all these dialogue trees, and it's like the best of BioWare mixed with the best of Bethesda, like The Witcher 3 really takes the best of both worlds for open world RPGs and puts them all together in something that like I feel, at least from the gameplay's perspective and the plot perspective, Julian's been looking at and needing for like 5 years now.
Yeah,
and
it's the best of both of those, but then beats them both like handily. Like I tweeted this when I was really playing it hot and heavy, and I can't wait to go back to it. But I don't understand how the team at BioWare working on Mass Effect Andromeda saw that The Witcher 3 existed and then still put out the game that they did. Like, The Witcher 3 was a sea change, and they were just like, we're just going to keep doing things the way that we always did, but not as good. And that's somehow supposed to be up to snuff. And it's like, no, The Witcher is now the benchmark.
Right. It's almost like for Mass Effect, they use like a framework where they could add stuff in, and they just didn't get to adding most of what they wanted or something like that. Like if you build an app, there's like these, frameworks you could start with, and then you just populate them, and you keep editing in them. And I feel like the team at Mass Effect just didn't get the chance to put as many things in as they wanted to, and they kind of had to go quality over quantity, or quantity over quality, and get something out. Because, you can just iterate on things forever and ever, like the people in Poland did for The Witcher 3, but that's based on, some lore that's already been created. And God, there are so many books in there that you gotta read. There's so many different people that you can tell had come from either previous Witchers that influence even the final battle. Like people that you could have at your, defense of whatever it has to be that you're defending. I won't give that away, but, people that won't even be in the game itself if you haven't gotten like the right save from The Witcher 2, which is great because it seems like you are starting from a blank slate if you haven't gotten the Witcher 2 save like I didn't because I didn't get through the entire game, or if you're just like a newcomer to it, it's a great way to like mold the two, and that's really hard to get right.
Yeah. I'm really impressed with it. So does it beat out Bloodborne for your 2015 game?
Well, yeah, I'm trying to figure out like if it does or not, because right now I'm at level 25. I'm in like the last quest in the main storyline, but I also have the expansion packs. I think the expansion packs probably add a lot more to this world than the Bloodborne world got added to it with its expansion pack. Like there was the old hunters and that was it, and it seemed like that was just a cash grab. In a lot of ways, they could have just added that all into the main storyline, although that kind of transparency is hard to see like with developers, so I'm not exactly sure if they really needed to add that little bit in and they couldn't yet and they had to release the game anyway. But it also has that I would have thought it would have had that polish actually, from just being in one system and being deployed only on PlayStation. But you know what? Like this is the first game, The Witcher 3 is the first game that I really thought was being thought of as multi-purpose, multi-platform, and it didn't hinder the game at all. It was just like added on because they could. Like it looks just as good as only a PlayStation native app or video game or an Xbox One game, but it also has the ability to upscale and tune it like a PC game should. And that coupled with like some music that I just like leave on in the background, which doesn't usually happen with Bloodborne. It's more of like an idyllic setting rather than a dystopian setting like Bloodborne. In a Victorian society, which is, it's great for a little while, but I think when I want to spend more and more time of my life that way, like throughout, if I'm going to, spend 50, 60 hours or even just like stay in the world like forever in infinitum, would it really be in a horror setting like Bloodborne, or would it be in a setting that's part horror? Definitely with The Witcher. Like, man, there were some crazy plot lines that I never would have thought would have happened in a video game or anywhere really. Even I didn't think that this would be a choice in like real life when I have to, oh man, like see three women that are all like chopped to death in like a old timey bathtub or something like that. And I have to decide whether or not the guy lives because there's a reason to keep him alive. Like I killed his ass anyway, because you don't treat women like that in my world. But that kind of stuff didn't happen in Bloodborne, and that kind of stuff is really emotional to me. And it's what I remember years down the line. I may have remembered like this feat of beating one of the hardest games I ever could have beaten, but in the end, I think The Witcher 3 is definitely going to dethrone Bloodborne just because it's a more overall package. There's been more things that have been pumped into it. There's more content. The world like breathes more, but also it's just a place that you would want to stay in after you're done. Like get every contract completed. You find every person, romance every woman, see every tit.
I definitely am playing my Geralt as if he was James Bond, since I don't have any of the like backstory because I haven't played the other game. So it's like, he's just going to sleep with everybody because he doesn't really have a girlfriend.
Yeah, I didn't realize like who he was supposed to be with. So I guess in some ways, like one of the characters does some shady stuff that I was just like not having and killed her. But then another one, like she did some shady stuff and I was like supposed to follow her anyway. But at the same time, I was like, girl, yeah, I slept with your best friend, the other mage. I apparently didn't have my memory either at the time, which made it even better because I was just playing The Witcher 3, so I didn't have memories of The Witcher 2 and 1, just like Geralt had lost it during that time. But it was great to romance the girl that I wanted rather than the one who may or may not have done something bad for the entirety of the region that would be known as like the Irish or something in our world. It's at least modeled after the Irish, this town of Skellige. But yeah, it's pretty awesome how they have these different lore elements that are based on either Irish or Roman or Nordic lore, but they put them all together into a new system that's more intricate, I even think, than Game of Thrones.
Yeah. So that's a knockout then. Bloodborne gets knocked out.
Knocked him out. The PS fanboy in me is dying.
I wouldn't say that when it's just one game that happens to be multi-platform. I will say though, so we'll definitely bring this back if we ever happen to like visit any games that potentially, you know, could supplant one of our older picks from Chrono Crossing. But since I have been playing this game a lot recently, and I picked Until Dawn for 2015 on Chrono Crossing, Witcher 3 knocks out Until Dawn.
Yeah.
Until Dawn was definitely like an important game for me to play at the time. And I think it was the first game that I played all the way through after my mom died. And it was nice to be able to play through this like kind of, you know, linear self-contained story. And my girlfriend was watching me play it, and it was a nice experience, but you can't beat like how immersive The Witcher 3 story is. Like, its quest design is unparalleled. Its voice acting and performance capture and stuff is just amazing. So yeah, like, it's definitely my new favorite game of 2015.
You know, it's funny too, and I don't laugh that much, and I don't laugh in this really much either, but I giggle a little bit because like Geralt's supposed to be like cold and detached, you know, like a professional, but he like struggles with that, and apparently he struggles with that in the books as well. I feel that also like parallels the struggles with what it's like to be a man in modern society, and even though this is, you know, largely a medieval tale, I feel like men are struggling now, like how many emotions they're supposed to show, especially in like a more progressive society where it's okay to like see those kind of things. But, you know, in terms of like the years and years of history, it's like it was a defining trait of man, or like a flaw if you showed any emotion at all. So like that kind of play on stoicism shows up a lot throughout the entirety of the game. And I really like the way that they play with it, because most games either have to do that by making their character silent just so it's universal and applies to everyone, like while you're going through it, or also just because of like, that's what it's supposed to mean to be a man. So
we're running a little long and we got to wrap this up. So I'm going to cut my stuff short and just talk about, something that, is new and hot because, it will actually have just come out as you're listening to this episode. If you're listening to it as it comes out live, that is Valkyria Chronicles 4 for the PlayStation. Well, I played it for the PlayStation 4. Apparently it's coming out for Xbox One and the Switch as well, which bully to Sega for actually releasing a game on the Xbox One, because when we get to our inevitable, like, our annual State of the Generation, I've definitely got a bone to pick with companies not releasing games on the Xbox One. But anyway, this is out on everything. It's obviously the sequel to, well, we didn't get Valkyria Chronicles 3. We got 1 on the PlayStation 3, and then 2 came out for the PSP, and then 3 didn't come out to the States. But, it's a strategy RPG where you actually have complete control over your units. It's almost like a third-person shooter, except you're not really aiming in real time. You kind of go into an aiming mode, and you can take as much time as you want to aim and fire. I know that this is a very beloved series, especially the first game, and this is supposed to be very similar to the first game as far as gameplay structure and everything. It even takes place like parallel to the first game as far as timeline goes. I think it's a really bad strategy game. I have not been this aggravated with a game in I don't know how long. It's a game. Okay, so Patrick, you love Fire Emblem, right?
Yeah.
I love Fire Emblem. Fire Emblem is very good about communicating to you what's going on in any given situation, right? So like if you move on a unit and like you're going to try to attack a unit that is like way stronger than yours, like let's say it's one of those that can one-shot that type of character, it'll let you know before you even try to attack. It'll remind you, hey, no, these guys annihilate those guys, so you probably don't want to do that, right?
Yeah.
Or even if it's just like an even match, like it'll let you know approximately how much damage you can expect to do. You know, you may do more damage. You're not going to do less damage. And of course they may be able to dodge depending on how their evasion is. That's obviously like based on, you know, if you're a slow enemy or a slow character attacking a really agile character, you're probably going to miss. But it's really good about communicating what the potential is, what the outcome is potentially going to be. Valkyria profile, or Valkyria Chronicles, I always keep saying Valkyrie profile. I get them flip-flopped all the time. It gives you all these numbers and none of them matter. None of them actually factor in. Most of the time, they're just straight up bullshit. To the point that I have a sniper rifle. I'm aiming it at a dude's head. It tells me that I've got one shot to kill the guy if I hit, right? And I understand that if I miss, that's a miss, right? Like you're trying to snipe somebody from across the map. I get that. But when you shoot at that guy's head and he doesn't die, so that was bullshit. Like that number, that one shot to kill, you just lied. You know, that's not what happened here. And that's if your character hits, because the accuracy of your characters in this game is ludicrously poor. To the fact that I would take action after action after action, like trying to kill this one enemy, you know, it's like, this is the only character that's in range. Like they can do this. And then just watching whiff after whiff after whiff, and just like my jaw drops and I'm just dumbfounded. Like, what is going on here? Like the numbers are always against you. You know, cause you've got like random number generator stuff with this, right? Like it's going to roll the dice and then it's like, that's the outcome. But it's like the computer is playing with a loaded set of dice and you're playing with the legit ones, and it's just constantly cheating. And it's just so bloody frustrating. I mean, it's like I said to Joey earlier, it's like, I just wanted to play Spider-Man and Dragon Quest XI. And it's like, I'm playing this for review. And, you know, it's fun to be able to play a game pre-release. And, you know, like, I'm glad I got to do the review. I think it's actually a pretty fun review. I was able to, like, unburden myself with it. But I guess I don't understand why this series is popular, because it just seems like the game is constantly screwing you over because it can. To the point that, like, none of the rules matter. Like, I got to one of the final battles where you have to damage this one part of the enemy in order to basically drop their shield, right? And you can snipe that piece of equipment from across the field and destroy it. And then that enemy is vulnerable. But then you can't attack it with any of your long range weapons. And it's only because the game doesn't want you to. It wants you to, like, take all this time to loop around behind the enemy, get in close, and then attack at a close range. But it just arbitrarily tells you that you can't use sniper rifles on this enemy, or you can't use grenades on this enemy. And it's like, why? And it's like, because screw you, that's why. Like, you know, there's no rhyme or reason to any of it. It's just like, no, we want you to play like this now. And it's just, it constantly, it lies to you. It's just, like there was this one mission where this resistance guy says, the members of the resistance are in this town and they'll help you if you find them. Just look for the blue roses. I find a blue rose, nothing happens. It's like, okay, so that was bullshit too. Like, this whole game is just bullshit. Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. That's really all I have to say about it. It's got a great story, and it's got fantastic characters that are really well voice acted that I really enjoyed. Like, if it hadn't been for that, well, and me doing the review, I probably would have rage quit way earlier. But as it is, you know, I saw it through, and I suffer for you, Pixelbit readers and Nerds Without Pants listeners, because I do not recommend this game.
Would you say that you think bullshitting is an illegitimate strategy?
It seems to be the only strategy in Valkyria Chronicles 4. Yeah, I just, it makes me want to go back and play the first one again to see if the first one is this way too, or maybe this is just like, you know, not like somehow they messed up the formula with this one, but it just seemed like more often than not, like, especially when you really need to kill this guy, right? The next turn hinges on this guy being removed from the map. So you really need to make sure that this shot counts. Every time you're in that situation, that shot misses. And, you know, to the point that, like, I snuck behind dudes so many times and I aimed my gun at their unsuspecting heads and missed every shot. And it's like, how is that? Me, Julian Titus, would be able to make that shot, and I've never held a gun in my life. So what excuse do you, trained soldiers in the military, have for missing every single one? It's just, It's not right. I don't like it, sir. I do not like it at all.
It's the Stormtrooper effect.
It's totally the Stormtrooper effect. And then this, I wanted to put this in the review, but it was already going too long. But you have this one character in your party, and he's like the brash, like loose cannon of the group. And the first time that he runs off half-cocked and gets you guys in trouble, all right, you know, it happens. The second time that he runs off half-cocked and exposes, like, or ruins your, the moment of surprise and everything and gets everybody into this long, drawn-out battle that didn't need to happen, that's when you court-martial the son of a bitch. But the main character's just like, well, you know, we just feel really bad when you go out there and you shouldn't do that. And it's like, lead! Be the commander. Lay the smack down. This is not right. I'm just yelling at these characters. I'm like,
well, there's too many other awesome RPGs to play right now.
I know. And hopefully I've saved some of you from wasting your time on this one. Unless you really love the first game, because as I understand it, they're pretty similar. So you might like this one way more than I did, but
Wasn't that a classic?
That's what people say. I am not a fan. Yeah. I don't think that I had fun at all during the 40-something hours that I played it. Like, there may have been like one or two times where I was like, this is fun. And then it was immediately shot down by, oh wait, no, I forgot. Yeah, none of this matters because, you know, all of these numbers are fake and, you know, any type of strategy that I try to implement is immediately like laughed at because the game didn't want to be played that way. So, alas. But that's going to do it, I think, for this episode. Just because Julian's got to get to bed. So, just real quick, I did see Ninja Sex Party in concert. It was awesome. That's why there was so much Ninja Sex Party music in the show. I had a long story about it, but I'm spent after. I mean, my blood pressure is already rising just from talking about Valkyria Chronicles again. Damn it. I'd rather be playing Valkyrie Profile. That's a really good game. So I think we're going to go ahead and wrap this sucker up. Once again, for next episode, for Stage Select, we're going to talk about your top 3 missing in action games, which means top 3 games that haven't been developed at all for this generation and haven't had a new game announced yet for anything upcoming. So, definitely get those to us. Once again, you can comment in the show thread at pixelbit.com for episode 138. Hit us up on Twitter at NWPcast or on Facebook, at, Nerds Without Pants Podcast. But also you can find us on the Twitter. Patrick.
I'm at some boss.
Saw you've been more active there lately, so that's cool.
Been doing shit on the hustle.
I know. Joey, did you want to give out your Twitter, or are you still kind of like playing it down low now?
Oh, no, I mean, I'll give out the Twitter. I'm at Joe Mike Step on Twitter, and my game of 2015 was Arkham Knight, so go ahead and at me all you want. And then I'm Superstep on Pixelbit, so. Yes.
And you can find me, on Twitter at Julian_Titus. Yeah, that is going to do it for this episode. Joey, thanks for being on again. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Thank you. And, we'll have Jesse on next episode, so that should be a lot of fun. Got a lot of guests, in the pipeline. Not sure exactly where they're going to end up sliding in, but we've definitely got a lot of people lined up that want to be on the show. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Look forward to that.
And if you want to be on the show, just comment the shit out of it.
Yeah. Give us really long, detailed comments on as you're listening to the show. And then eventually, Senpai will notice you and we'll have you on.
Specifically.
Also,
sorry, go ahead.
Also, shares and likes wouldn't hurt.
Yes. Yeah, and rates, review it, damn it.
Yeah, rates on iTunes. And then also just specifically listen to 30 minutes, come back, listen to 30 minutes more, come back.
Yes. Yes.
Exactly
everybody do that. And eventually you will level up enough to be able to take your pants off and come record with us.
I'm wearing sleeping pants. Ah, damn it.
Those aren't pants.
Yeah.
Sleeping pants. You don't wear those outside.
I've got shorts on.
Those aren't pants. I've actually got pants.
Not
on right now, but it's been a really long day. Yeah, that's gonna do it. So, for myself, Patrick, and Joey, thanks for listening, and keep it pantsless, internet. Goodbye.
You gotta, like, unzip them so they're technically not all the way on.
Oh, yeah, they're unzipped.
Yeah, like, where's the point where they're off or on? I don't know. If they're just hanging.
Hey, little Danny, don't be blue. You had a growth spurt and you're suddenly 6'2". The girls are steering clear. You walk like a newborn deer. Send birthday invites and now all your friend is here. Danny, don't you know that you are cool as fuck on the inside? You're just going through an awkward phase from 12 to 29. Danny, don't you know that everyone feels weird on the inside? Danny, don't you know? 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 Close your eyes and you will see a window into your destiny. Now you're on top, and they want more. Step on stage and they come alive. No one cares that you're 35. You're a rock star on a centaur.
Where did you get it?
You're still a nerdy kid inside.
Hey, before we do that, can I go to the bathroom? It's, like, far away, so
Sure.
I can't just run out real fast, but I'm at the office still, so.
No problem.
All right. 5 minutes at most.
Are we stopped? Yes, sir. How about we all take a 5-minute break? Very good, sir. Smoke 'em if you got 'em.
I thought you were actually talking to somebody else in there for a second. Like at the very start.
I randomly just, like, quote movies when things remind me of them. My girlfriend does it too, like, it's just a thing. We'll both just, like, randomly jump into, like, routines from Quest for the Holy Grail and stuff like that, just because. I did see that we got another review, but I don't think they wrote anything. I think they just, like, gave it, like, 5 stars, which is fine.
Yeah, I think that was the person that I said, all right, if you're not interested in this, you don't have to listen, but go ahead and give it a 5-star. And she was like, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
And then another one listened, but I don't know if he reacted to it anyway. So.
Yeah. No, that's good. It's frustratingly hard to get people to listen to your podcast. And there's this one audio drama that I had to stop listening to called The Black Tapes. It's like this paranormal, like, audio drama. But in the story, they are creating a podcast called The Black Tapes. But then the main character is also, like, going to investigate these paranormal things. But everybody she meets is like, oh yeah, I know you from your podcast. And I'm like, fuck you. Like, nobody that you know is listening to this podcast. Nobody that you run into has heard of this podcast. Like, it is statistically so low.
Unless you're Adam Carolla or Joe Rogan or...
Even then, like they're like, oh yeah, like Joe Rogan's like, oh yeah, I know you from UFC, or I know you from, like, news radio or your stand-up comedy. Like, what's a podcast?
Yeah. And with Adam Carolla, it's from Loveline or from his stints with Dr. Drew. And so, it's because they already had something going before. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. And it was just like every time, like, she would meet somebody. And also then it was like, wait, so you're, like, recording these conversations, but then you're broadcasting it on the show that that person listens to. Like, it was just this, like, huge, like, narrative disconnect for me. So I finally, like, stopped, like, 2 seasons in. It was good. It was just like, in a podcast about, ghosts and possession and abductions and stuff like this, the most unrealistic part was that everybody knows this show.